back to another episode of the Preacher of the Prodigy. Last week we did a lightning round because we had to go quick.
We had to go camping last week.
Yeah, this week we got a little bit something different. We're gonna do our halfway through the year predictions and like who we think the top people are, top teams.
Kind of a mid-season report card of sorts.
This is mainly because the games this week were not that great.
The slate of games this week is absolutely atrocious.
We got, like, Georgia, Kentucky, and maybe Oklahoma State, Texas, and that's it.
It means a lot when game day goes back to the same place it was 2 weeks ago.
I know.
Because there's really
nothing else.
There's no other option. So last week, we went camping. We were right in sort of the environs of the Michigan-Nebraska game. You were repping your Tom Brady jersey in a restaurant in Omaha, and at that point, it wasn't looking good. But by the end of the night, the Wolverines had prevailed.
And that fumble that Adrian Martinez had, that we won on a fumble again. We won on a fumble against Rutgers, and Scott Frost. He's probably thinking to himself, I'm probably going to be gone next year.
The way things are going. Not a good game for really either team, but a terrible game for the officials too. Some blown calls all over the field. In the end, Michigan wins by pretty much the Vegas line, 2.5. They won by 3. So, what we're doing this week is we're kind of, in lieu of picking 5 games, we're going to take a look at some players, some teams that we're really interested to see in the second half. So you wrote up a handful of questions here, and we're going to run through our mid-season report card for 2021.
And quickly, we're going to do our prediction scoreboard. It's kind of flip-flop. You're 17-13, I'm 13-17. We didn't gain or lose any games on each other last week. We both went 2-3.
Do you want to get the one game out of the way? We're going to pick just one game. Yeah. You want to do that? Get that out of the way first?
Let's do the Kentucky-Georgia game. Kentucky is going to Athens again, like we said. Game day is going to be there. Uga is giving 21.5 at home.
It's a good line, and I think I have to pick because I'm ahead. I can see this one 34-13. I can see it 34-10. I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to cover the 21.5. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to take the Bulldogs at home. Just the defense of Georgia is shutting everybody down, especially Arkansas. They blank. Arkansas is putting half 100 on other teams. So I'm going to take that Georgia defense, and I'm going to give you the points.
And who would you trust more in Georgia's environment, Arkansas or Kentucky? Because they both went to Athens, and Arkansas got blown out. Georgia just went to Auburn and kicked just destroyed them in Auburn, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to take Georgia too. I could see this be like a 41-13 kind of game for Georgia.
Yeah. I don't think Georgia's going to win by 50, but can they cover 3 touchdowns and a field goal? I think so.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to go right into our top 5 teams.
Top 5 teams. You want to go first?
Let's go 5-5 and 4-4, 3-3. 2,
all right, your number 5 team.
Right, my number 5 is Cincinnati. They do not have any more big games left on the schedule except maybe SMU, but I think they could win that game. They beat both Notre Dame and Indiana when people thought they were pretty good, and they beat another team, pretty good team. Can't remember. But they're sitting right now at number 3, still undefeated. But I just think that with beating Notre Dame and Notre Dame almost losing to Florida State, that could be a bit of an iffy win, and beating an Indiana team that's not good at all.
Yeah.
I think they're very good. I think their quarterback Desmond Ridder is a Heisman Trophy candidate. But I don't think they're gonna make. I think they're gonna make the playoff, but I don't think they're a playoff caliber team.
So this is not where do these teams deserve to be ranked. These are our top 5 teams, and so I thought about Cincy. I'm going to go Bama as my top team in that number 5 slot. I think even though Bama lost to Texas A&M, I still think they're a top 5 team. I think they win that game against Texas A&M. most nights. It was a great night at Kyle Field. Eggy Yell was loud and proud. But I'm going to take Bama at number 5.
Yeah. For this one, I'm going to take Iowa at number 4. I'm going to take Iowa for one reason. The defense gets so many turnovers. They're leading the nation in turnover margin, interceptions, takeaways, just all kinds of things. They've also added on 4 fumbles, too, on the year. So I think they're sitting somewhere at like maybe plus 19 or something already. And
it's absurd.
Iowa's offense is ugly. Let me get that through. Iowa's offense is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, bootleg, run the ball, run the ball, bootleg, pass, run the ball, run the ball. Like, it's either like Tyler Goodson getting the ball or Spencer Petras rolling out right.
Yeah.
Their offense has... It's just not pretty, but they score points because their defense puts them in position, and they won against Penn State at home because their defense put them in position.
I'm going to agree with you. I have Iowa at number 4. I had them preseason number 7. Their offense is not sophisticated. At this point, you don't need to be. And so it feels weird to be defending a choice to have Iowa this low because for crying out loud, they're top 4. But I do think that at some point the turnover thing will level off a little bit. You can't continue at a ratio of plus 3.5 turnovers a game. But right now Iowa deserves it. It was a gritty win against Penn State, so I have the Hawkeyes at number 4 as well.
My number 3 spot. I'm going to take Penn State. Penn State,
lost to Iowa.
Penn State, in my mind, would have beaten Iowa if Sean Clifford didn't get injured. Because they were up 14-3.
Very possible.
No, they were up 17-3.
Yeah.
And then Sean Clifford got hurt, and their quarterback made
Roberson was not up for it.
Made bad throws, threw picks. That's how Iowa wins games, and they lost the game in the end because Sean Clifford, the veteran, could not be in the game and make the right throws. And their defense is very good. Like, their defense is a top 10, maybe 5 defense. Mm-hmm. Jaquan Brisker is an insane D-back.
Defensive back, yeah.
Their defensive front 7 is pretty good. And they're just, like, solid everywhere on defense. That's a defense that you'd really want to have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Penn State.
Well, I'm going to take another Big Ten East one-loss team.
Ohio State.
I'm going Buckeyes. I think the Buckeyes would and will lay it on Penn State. The move to replace Kerry Combs as defensive coordinator has turned out to be a smart one. C.J. Stroud, after that little one-game sabbatical he took, has been throwing for 400 yards a game. Not against great defenses, but I think that the Buckeyes really are now giving the ball to Henderson and doing enough on defense. I think Ohio State is doing what we just hate to see them do, which is they're peaking as they get toward the end of the year. Give me Ohio State against Penn State. I'm going to take the Buckeyes 9 games out of 10. I think Ohio State pulls away from Iowa, too. Ohio State's my number 3 team.
Ohio State could beat Penn State. I feel like Ohio State could beat Penn State like 35-28, 35-31, mainly because it's at home. If it was in Happy Valley, C.J. Stroud hasn't had very many away games to
Yeah, but we're not. See, but now you're thinking about the stadium. I'm talking about neutral field.
If we're going
which football team is better right now?
If we're going neutral field, it'd be an insane game. That might be a coin flip. But right now, Penn State is
Ohio State
the better team.
hammered.
Ohio State could beat them near the end of the season because they get better. But Penn State right now would beat Ohio State.
All right, your number 2.
My number 2 would be Bama. I mean, even though losing to Texas A&M at Kyle Field, that's a really hard place to play. And they only lost by 3 points. I know they got hammered in the first half. They didn't really look that great. And then they came back. Bryce Young was throwing the ball everywhere, making great passes. But I still take them number 2 because Nick Saban is Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. Their defense has All-Americans on there. Bryce Young has gotten a lot better. Their wide receiving core might be the best in the nation, maybe besides Ohio State, but it could be argued. And just everywhere they are extremely good. And I think because Nick Saban always figures out a way to win out from here on out, I'm going to take Alabama number 2.
Yeah, you seem to be ignoring, for me, one of the most interesting teams in the country with one of the most remarkable coaching decisions I have seen in a long time. that to pull. Sorry about that.
We can just edit that out.
That to pull Spencer Rattler out of the starting lineup for Caleb Williams and have it work in the Red River rivalry. I'm taking Oklahoma at number 2. They've proved to me that they are not a perfect football team. Do they deserve to be the number 2 team in the country? I think so. I think Oklahoma is going to run the table. Now, that's not what we're saying here, but I think the second best team in the country is Lincoln Riley, who made that stunning decision to bench Heisman frontrunner Spencer Rattler and have it pay off in the incredible comeback against Texas. Oklahoma's number 2.
Now, for that one, I would give Spencer Rattler maybe one more game to try and show that he can hang on to his job. Remember, he was the Heisman favorite, as you said, going into the season. Everybody was so hyped about him. They were hyped about him coming out of high school. And this year, he has not performed near to the expectations that people think he'd perform.
Well, why was he the Heisman favorite?
He was the Heisman favorite
because of Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, because he's the Oklahoma starting quarterback. And it's not really on his body of work.
Now, Caleb Williams is a true freshman, and he went nuts in maybe the biggest Red River rivalry of all time.
Best game of the year, bar none.
Yeah, so far, maybe of the whole year in the end. And they were down 28-7. And then Spencer Rattler got benched, and then Caleb Williams came back. I'm pretty sure one of the first plays that he was started, not for a certain play, but that he started, it was 4th down and 1. He had a read option. He took the ball, broke a tackle, and then ran 60 yards. Yeah. No one to stop him.
And that is what Caleb Williams brings that Spencer Rattler does not, which is you turn every broken passing play into a running play. And that's what makes those Lincoln Riley quarterbacks so dangerous, is when you have the threat of the run out of the quarterback position as well. Spencer Rattler is a passer. He's not a runner. Caleb Williams is a true dual threat. And so I think, as strange as it might sound, I think that you roll with Caleb Williams for the foreseeable future.
Now, the only reason he's not in my top 5 is because their defense gives me a lot of worries.
It's Nick Benito and some question marks.
Texas and true freshman Xavier Worthy rolled up 28 in the first.
I thought we were banning all talk of Xavier Worthy. It's just too much. It's just
Texas in general.
Thank you.
Scored 28 points in the first quarter. 41 in the first half. They, I can't remember, 41 or 38, probably 38. But they just took apart Oklahoma.
Yeah.
On the
because
side of the ball.
Sark can coach offense. And so I'm not taking anything away from it. I agree with your point. The defense is unproven. Right now, they're my number 2 team in the country. All right, we got to move on. We both agree on number 1.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Georgia
has
for obvious reasons. All right.
They have proven it with their defense, and they are number 1 unanimously. And so who should be surprised that you and I both have them? All right.
Heisman top 3. You can start with this one if you want.
So we're going to do all 3 of them?
We can just list them, not in any specific
Well,
order.
there's part of me that wants to include Bailey Zappi. Part of me wants to include Kyle Hamilton. Some of these guys, Malik Willis. But I really don't think that the odds are very good for them actually getting to New York. For me, if I were to invite 3 people right now to New York City for the Heisman Trophy, again, I would love to see an Aiden Hutchinson there as a non-traditional player. But for me, there are 3 guys I'm going to go with right now. And in number 3, I'm going to take C.J. Stroud. Despite sitting out that game, I think when he's on the field, especially post-Oregon, putting up video game numbers, I think that Stroud is going to be there. The only thing that's hurting C.J. Stroud right now is Trevian Henderson. So give me Stroud in my number 3 position.
Yeah, my number 3 position is probably going to be C.J. Stroud. He, sat out that one game. That one game was against Akron. All right, and without him, they put up 59 points. And with them, they could have scored 80 easily. Yeah. He looks like a veteran quarterback. He knows what to read. He knows his options.
Yeah.
He's got great receivers. He's got Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. all incredible receivers.
Yep.
Then he's got. I don't want to put too much on the backfield because right now this is about C.J. Stroud, but he's got great blocking.
A good tight end.
Good tight. He's just got everything around.
Your number 2. Give me your number 2.
My number 2 is going to be Trevian Henderson.
Wow.
Trevian Henderson is looking insane as a true freshman.
Man.
He can tear up defenses, make cuts, and break tackles since Ezekiel Elliott. He is doing everything incredible right now. He's got to be averaging 9 yards a rip. He can do everything.
Yeah. Well,
he's going to be better. He might be one of the best running backs of the 2000s by the end of his career.
Well, that's a lot to say at this point. Right now, he's not there. But the disrespect you're putting on Kenneth Walker III is just, unless he's your number 1, boy, that's really hard to see. My number 2, I'm going a little bit off the radar here, but I think one of the most impressive offensive players this season is Drake London. Give me the USC wide receiver who is catching everything despite a rotation at the quarterback between Dart and Slovis with a different head coach. Things are all over the place, yet that guy just puts up numbers. And to me, he's one of the best 3, has had the best 3 seasons. I'm taking Drake London as number 2.
All right, so I had a really tough time picking this one. So I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because I had 5
Are you going to respect Kenneth Walker III?
I'm going to respect Kenneth Walker. He's going to be one of my honorable mentions. He's running. He might have over 1,000 yards this season. We're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
He is going off. He had a 94-yard run last week. And, I mean, he's not Trevian Henderson, but he's a very good running back.
Athletically, he's not Trevian Henderson. Productivity, he's better right now.
Can I give credit to 4 guys in the same position? Because that Georgia...
If you do it quickly. You got to do it quickly.
Okay, that Georgia defensive front is insane. They're getting to the quarterback every play.
Yep.
They can't... just... No O-line can stop them.
Okay.
And then my number 1's got to... I'm going to say Bijan Robinson. He might not be putting up the numbers, but when you watch his highlights, he can make moves for days. He's like Trevian Henderson, but a junior or senior. I can't remember.
Yeah.
He might even be a sophomore.
It's a solid pick. He'd be a first-team All-American, but for me, it's Bryce Young. Bryce Young, 20 touchdowns, 3 picks, playing the schedule he's played. Again, he faltered a little bit here and there against Florida, but he really showed out in the A&M loss. And I just think, at the end of the day, if you're picking the Heisman Trophy, it's the offensive leader of Alabama. Is never a bad choice. It's going to be Bryce Young as number 1.
All right. Now we got 2 surprise teams.
You want me to go first?
No, I'll go first.
Okay.
My number 1 surprise team, it's got to be Clemson. Clemson going into the season, number 2. And now they're not even ranked.
Mm-hmm. Struggles
number 2, almost lost to Boston College. They lost to multiple teams who shouldn't have beat them at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And they have just looked way worse than people thought they looked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Clemson here. DJU, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty good quarterback. But
who else surprised you?
My other surprising team, it's going to be Georgia. Georgia, coming into the year, thought probably a CFP team, 3 or 4 in the country. Mm-hmm. But now they have looked like maybe, besides LSU, maybe the best team in the 2010s. They have dominated on the defensive side. Shut out 2 very good teams. Shut out Arkansas, shut out Vanderbilt, almost shut out Auburn.
Between the hedges and on the road, they've looked great. So my 2 surprise teams, I'm kind of going to go positive on both of those. You want one positive, one negative. I think for me, I will say both. Frankly, both Michigan teams, but I'll say Michigan State surprises me more. I did have Michigan at kind of about 5-1 or 4-2 at this point in the season, but I didn't think Michigan State would be undefeated in the top 10. Yeah. So kudos to Mel Tucker. and the Spartans for what they're doing. For all those Big Ten East teams, the schedule is going to get far more complicated in the second half, but to this point, they got to be one of your surprise teams. And I'm going with Big Blue. I'm going with Kentucky, right? I mean, who saw this coming? That they would be playing this well, undefeated, the feature of a college game day tour. So really, congratulations to Mark Stoops. Yeah, a team on the decline again. North Carolina's been schizophrenic. Notre Dame not been very good. Clemson clearly a disappointment. But I'm going to choose those positives: Michigan State and Kentucky. A couple of basketball schools.
And
really impressive.
I could choose another negative. Yeah, Florida State.
Well, maybe, but I didn't have high hopes.
I thought Florida State could make a bowl game.
Miami has been a bit more disappointing. I farther under the DS.
Beginning of the season, I thought this would be the year that Florida State kind of starts to get back. Maybe a 5-7, 6-7 kind of year.
And they could still get there potentially,
but they've just not.
Okay, so we've got second half games that we're going to finish with this that we're most looking forward to. I'll start with my three. All right, and I'm going to go with games that we know for sure will happen. That's going to be my criteria. So I am excluding at this point conference championship games that we don't know for certain will happen. Yep. So for me, number 3, I'm going to go with SMU Cincinnati. It's going to be a fascinating game. Should be a lot of points scored by both teams, and both teams want to be that Power 5 team that crashes the New Year's Six and potentially even the playoffs. So I think to me that's number 3. Number 2, this is going to be outside the box. I'm going Farmageddon. I am fascinated to see that Friday before Thanksgiving, Iowa at Nebraska. Because I think, again, I think that Scott Frost is a fascinating and clever offensive coach. And I think Iowa is built to stop some of those conventional teams that you know what they're going to do. You know where you place your DBs on 3rd and long. I think Nebraska could give them fits. The game's in Lincoln. And again, Scott Frost is going to be coaching potentially for his job. I'm fascinated. It's going to be a great day to watch on Black Friday. My number 1, I'm going Cocktail Party, Georgia, Florida. I think that there's still a ton to play for the Gators, despite having a couple losses. And I can see Dan Mullen having the troops ready to do some things that might catch Georgia off guard. So, again, obviously, I would love to say Georgia-Bama, but there's still scenarios in which Georgia does not play Alabama, so I cannot pick that one for sure. So those are my 3. SMU, Cincy, Farmageddon, and then the Cocktail Party.
All right, so I'm going to agree with you with Cocktail Party as my number 3. For all the reasons you said, might be Georgia's biggest test of the year. This game. I mean, Florida has always seemed to look pretty good in these games. Mm-hmm. The running game I know they're going up against Georgia's defense, but the running game has been pretty good. I can see them going up for maybe 200 to 250 yards.
Yep.
Running the ball. And their defense has looked very solid. But if I had to pick who would win this game, I'd obviously go Georgia.
Yeah, at this point, you have to, right?
At this point, you have to. But if there's a line of this game, say Georgia maybe 16.5.
We can probably look up that. There's probably a line out there already. You can get that line.
Yeah, and I was surprised that you said Farmageddon, because that was the game that I would say is my number 2.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Nebraska has gotten so much better since playing Illinois. Almost beat Oklahoma. Almost beat Michigan. Almost won 2 games. Almost won 2 games on the road against Illinois and Michigan State.
It may be the gambler's fallacy, but you have to assume at some point they're going to break through with one of these big games, and they're going to get that signature win.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick that game because Iowa might very well lose that game. And for my number 1, I might be biased, but I'm a Michigan fan. And this Michigan-Ohio State game, I am pumped for because we play at home. We play
at home when there's 35% Ohio State fans.
Yeah. It's at home.
Sorry to be Debbie Downer, but
they're gonna. This might be our one moment to show that this is still a rivalry. if we lose this game, this might end as like the game nickname. Because Ohio State has won year after year after year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's been Michigan 1 year, and then Ohio State. And it's
not 19 of the last 21 games or something.
It's not been fun. And Michigan played Ohio State a couple years ago. We were number 3. They were number 9. It was in the horseshoe. We lost 62-39. That tells me that Ohio State they never seem to lose to Michigan. And this might be the game that they actually do. Now, I said that before, but this might actually be the game that we beat them. So it's
not a good matchup for Michigan, unfortunately, with the wide receivers that Ohio State can bring up. So we'll have to hope for really bad weather. Hope for a game that's in the 30s and rainy so that Michigan can give the ball to Hassan Haskins, shorten that game. I still worry at this point. That's why I have Ohio State ranked as high. When you give C.J. Stroud time, when you allow those wide receivers to get open, they're just so
I don't know if he's going to have time because Aiden Hutchinson can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, well, we said that when there was Rashawn Gary and Devin Bush, and Dwayne Haskins sat back there all day and just picked us apart on crossing routes. So it's the same guy calling the plays. It's still Ryan Day, even though that was an urban team. Ryan Day was the OC. So I agree. I would obviously I'd give almost anything for that to happen, but right now I cannot say that that's my most anticipated game because in my mind that's still going to be a loss. So we'll see.
All right, so that will do it for this episode.
The midseason report card.
That's gone. It's a pretty long episode from what we like to have, but we had a lot to get through. Top 5 kind of took a while, but in the end we got through it. Remember, 17-13, 13-17.
What games are there to look forward to next week? Really quickly, what's happening next week? Is there anything?
I haven't checked that. I might need to do that. But anyway, we'll see how this week goes. Maybe a couple upsets of some good teams.
Yep.
But in the end, he's Preacher, Prodigy.
Hawks.